Hey, White Sox fans! Brett Ballantini here, lucky enough to host Sox Populi Podcast 186. Boy, it's just amazing to think that we're pushing 200 of these podcasts. If this team was any good, man, don't start it on a negative note, Brett. Well, I'm still going to do that. We don't do retakes here. Amazing to think we'd probably be at 500 if that window of contention had actually stayed open more than that little crack it was there early this decade. But, well, 2025 is coming. We can't do anything about it. We've laid down and tried to avoid it for long enough. It's looming, and the March home opener coming on Thursday. I don't know if that means snow or 90 degrees or sleet, fires, smoke, fog. I don't know. It's Chicago. It's probably not going to be anything real simple, sunny, and nice, but that's still to come. We have pregame and postgame podcasts for the home opener. That's still to come. Right now, we are devoting a little bit of time to our staff. Hey, guess what? The staff's really shrunk because it's just three of us. But we're talking about our staff. I think we have about 8 or 9 picks so far from different writers. Our traditional prediction for the upcoming season. We have our 2025 season picks committed as much as they can be on electronic ink. And we are going to discuss some of those. I've noticed that a few of the people making some of the weirder picks have not shown up. So we'll just dog them in absentia. We have the stalwart and returning champion, Melissa Sage-Bollenbach, here with me now. And I'm hoping this is straightforward. I'm really good at blowing names, but this hopefully is simple enough to say we are welcoming to our first Sox Populi podcast, Hannah Filippo. Is that correct, or have I got it completely wrong?
I'm surprised you got on the first try. Most people don't, even though it's pretty straightforward in my opinion. But
Hannah, when you're a Ballantini, you learn the importance. I mean, I don't even get Brett pronounced correctly most of the time. So, all right, well, welcome, Hannah. Bonus points for me. I can just sit out the rest of the podcast because I've got one thing right and probably nothing else is coming up right. Welcome to you both. Okay, first question, not even getting to predictions, but are you ready for the 2025 season to begin? We are mere days away.
Ready or not, right?
I can see how ready you are.
Strap it in. It's time. It's go time, baby. Yeah. These last few days of spring training and all the injuries, and boy, it's something. But what are we gonna do? You got to play them. Got to play 162, no matter how bad they're gonna be.
Yes. Hannah, of course, is new to our staff, first podcast, and we've got a little bit of background. You're going to meet the players from her pretty soon. You get to know her better over these coming weeks by reading her and seeing her on and listening to her on some of these podcasts. But one thing we do know is I believe she is a follower, of course, White Sox for some reason, nearest and dearest to her heart. But I believe like 4 other teams, which is good because you can hedge. If you basically are following like a quarter or a fifth of the league, there's always, I suppose, something to look forward to. So I guess if you can't say White Sox, Hannah, there's something you're looking forward to in 2025.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more than 41 wins.
Oh yeah.
across the whole board, I am cautiously optimistic about the Sox, not having as poor of a year, but I do like what I see, at least in the AL East with the Red Sox. I like the Royals. The Brewers always kind of let me down every year, but that's the Brewers' way. Yeah. And the Nats don't really have much going for them either, but they're not as bad as the Sox, so we'll take it.
That's for sure. And so, yeah, I guess on that note, because it's the more interesting stuff, and though we will probably cover this in case for some reason you don't like the sound of my voice out there, it's fair because you'll get it. I'm sorry, in a couple more days as well. But if you do want to just shut this off and tune in for our pre, and we're going to probably cover some of this Sox specific stuff in our pre-home opener. We're calling it a pregame podcast. I don't think we're exactly going to break down what's going on opening day so much as we're going to talk probably more broadly about the season as well. So you can catch a little bit more of this, or you can find out if any of us have really changed our opinions in the intervening couple days. Let's jump right to the White Sox for the first half of the podcast, then maybe we'll talk a little more broadly across Major League Baseball. I have remained, I think, steadfast all off season. I think I've been consistent in saying the White Sox will be better this year. but they will be better by 1 game. I'm holding to that in my prediction. I'm actually not the low pick. Hamster actually thinks, and I don't think this is this weird a pick. They're actually going to be worse and reset a record. Of course, everyone so far picking has picked triple-digit losses. I think that's a foregone conclusion. But I am picking 42 and 120. We have Hannah, true to her word, 55 and 107, a considerable uptick from 2024. Melissa, I know she started out much sunnier than this, and she has now slipped to 48 and 114. So we really actually have a pretty good sampling here. I am by far the most dour, Hannah the sunniest, and Melissa somewhere right in between. Let's talk a little bit about what do you think this season's going to be. I imagine some of it is just it can't possibly be as bad for a variety of reasons as 2024.
I just couldn't go there that it would be A, worse, and B, that much better. So I just tried to kind of hang around just a few extra games better with 48. But that to me, a 48 still sounds really optimistic. I followed enough this spring to know that if somehow this ragtag bunch of players can pull off 48 wins, it's gonna be a miracle. But I just couldn't go as I couldn't go as low as last year or a little bit lower. I think that would just be way too depressing.
Yeah, Melissa. Every year there's some variety of shirts that the guys wear for training. They're wearing their uniform, whatever. When I covered on the beat, I think it was Beast Mode. I don't know why it was Beast Mode. I guess they thought they were going to be Beast. They weren't Beast that year. That's spoiler alert. Maybe ragtag guys, man, something to do with ragtag. Maybe that's gonna be their t-shirts. That'll be the negative motivation rather than fast, because that didn't really work out too well. Okay, speaking of a little sunnier, Hannah, 55. You are definitely thinking that a lot of things are gonna. First of all, just logic. I mean, come on, you do almost have to work hard to lose 120 plus games. So you got to be thinking that just talent-wise, but also just logically, there's going to be just improvement. And this really was as bad as it could have possibly gotten in 2024.
I won't lie. Now that I've seen all the injuries and the Tommy John surgeries, it's making me way more hesitant to say 55. But I've already put it down. So I'm going to stick with it just because I will ride on Will Venable needing to prove himself as a rookie manager. I will ride on the Sox needing to show people that they are not as depressing of a franchise as they were last year. Will it amount to that? Probably not. But I have faith that the effort will be far better from the beginning of the year compared to last year as it was last year.
Yeah. Luke Smales last year did very poorly in our predictions. That's sort of crazy because he's like our expert of experts, but I mean, he's sort of in league with you, Hannah. I mean, 54-108. I mean, that's basically the same pick. I don't know what he's sniffing on this team. I do not know what gut he's having. I know some people like Brian O'Neill in the past has always picked hey, I'd rather, and Malachi Hayes, I know also were like, you know what, I want to root for the team. I'm going to, if I'm going to have a range of 100 wins to 90, I'm going to choose 100 because I sort of want that anyway. So there's some logic to that. We all do want to see the team do better as much as we unfortunately sort of have to giggle at how bad the team is. One thing I think is funny when we talk about, and I think that a lot of people in the back, even me, in the back of your head, you think, okay, a lot did go wrong. Pedro's not the manager now. This, that, and the other thing, some kind of weird injury, some kind of quirk. I don't remember a lot of games that just hinged on some sort of weird fluke thing, like a black cat ran in front of the dugout so they lost or something. I don't remember a lot of fluky stuff. But on the flip side, to assume, well, it's just got to be better. I mean, you have to have the talent. We don't really know. Venable is unproven enough that we don't really know if he's going to be a master motivator, a master strategist to be able to eke out the the games that are maybe up for question. He could be. I mean, he alone could get the White Sox close to where you're predicting, Hannah. Especially when you figure that Pedro, probably cost the White Sox a lot of games. If not in strategy, just in motivation and in his just crazy, goofy personality. But it is true that you to assume too much of like, oh yeah, things got to break better. You do need the guys on the field to be pulling this off. And I'm not sure the White Sox have demonstrated. I mean, on paper, I don't think it's a stretch to say this team isn't better on paper. And if we're going to assume, well, Andrew Vaughn's going to finally be a 2-WAR player or something, well, okay, and that's possible, but we're not really basing that on anything. Andrew Benintendi isn't going to be Benintendi of, like, I don't know, the Red Sox or the Royals or whenever he was actually good. That's a lot to assume. So, I mean, there is something to say, like, this isn't just a matter of a dice roll, right? I mean, we're sort of wish casting a little bit when we're like, oh yeah, well, it's got to be better.
It almost has to be like, for it to be better, it's got to be like good fluky and like reverse. You know what I mean? Like, so last year was just all these things that were just happening and all these dominoes falling. And so for them to be better, I think it's like got to be the reverse. Like all of those things need to go their way. And like, what are the odds that that's going to happen? Like that rarely ever happens to us ever. And what are the odds that in our rebuilding year with all these mix of half injured players, rushing back to playing and new guys coming up, trying to figure out their way. Like, what is the chance that you're going to have like all-star seasons from all people like Vaughn and Benintendi and Robert, and then all of your new guys are all going to be like fantastic. Like, I think all of those things would have to happen in order to just be like not horrifically bad.
Mm-hmm. I was musing before the podcast, and I talk a lot, so who knows? Maybe I've even said it on this podcast already. They were going to try to like sort of hone in on the goofiest outlier picks, and I really thought that among the 3 reasonable souls on this podcast, there wouldn't be any of that type of exposure. Like none of us like pick the Cubs to win a division or something crazy like that, right? But look at this. As we're going through the White Sox, I have to pick on Melissa because she thinks Andrew Vaughn is going to be the player MVP this year. Is this correct? I'm reading this correctly, right? My eyes aren't fooling me. Now, please do explain. The incredibly reasonable pick of Miguel Vargas is me and Hannah's pick. Totally reasonable, right? But okay, please explain Andrew Vaughn to me, because that trajectory just it doesn't seem to jive. But is it just a matter of, well, you threw names in a hat and that's the guy you picked?
No, I didn't. I actually did put some thought into this.
Okay.
So like, well, Robert would be the easy pick, right? But
Sure.
So I was like, I'm not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, well, maybe like he wants to leave Chicago, and so maybe he's going to like finally put it together and like killer season, so that at the trade deadline somebody wants him. And so so that was kind of my very far out there reasoning of how I got there. But I wanted to, I don't know, just mix it up a little bit and kind of be creative. And so I was like, let's go with our number 3 pick and pretend that he's going to actually be the all-star that he was promised to be way back when.
Now, what I think is cute, Melissa, is we've flipped our picks. I'm picking Vaughn as the worst player. You're picking Miguel Vargas as the worst player. Me and Hannah are picking him as best. So, okay, I'm going to have to call you right back on the car, but what do you got against Miguel Vargas? Other than everything your eyes saw in 2020.
Yeah. Boy, that poor guy. I don't think I've ever seen somebody more depressed to be in a dugout before. Those memes and stuff were just so fantastic. But I will say, I mean, he has had a kick-ass spring training. So you guys could be onto something. He could be like, all right, I'll show all you haters that were making fun of me in my sad sack face that I actually can not just be a minor league superstar. I can actually put it together at the major league level. So you could be onto something, or it could be like, he's just really good at minor league spring training and winning
Mm.
real games.
That's true.
It goes back to sad and depressed Miguel.
That's true. That's true. Start losing weight again. Okay, Hannah, please explain to our dear listeners and to Melissa why Miguel Vargas will be the MVP of the team this season. And granted, I understand that there's an element of default. If everybody steps backward, well, he's the guy. And that probably is sort of what's going to happen. But beyond that, what are you seeing?
So other than by default as so far the healthiest, knock on wood, the healthiest position player so far, if I believe, which I do, that Robert will be traded at some point, Robert can't be the MVP, so that leaves Mark Vargas also. And I'm buying Vargas stock. I mean, he was traded away from the Dodgers, which is a hint in itself that the Dodgers don't believe in him if they have the immense farm system and player development staff that they have. If they don't believe in that they're able to fix him, after gaining 20 pounds this offseason and slugging away at spring training, this must be some sort of revenge. And so I'm buying his stock.
Yeah. The Dodgers know that whenever they've given up on a guy, the White Sox are just one phone call away. They've replaced in the Rolodex Rick Hahn with Chris Getz, but they just know that's a go-to move. The one thing I don't like about Miguel Vargas being the guy, and granted, I do not think he's going to have any kind of phenomenal year, but when we're talking about like maybe a one more player being good enough to be considered the offensive MVP, that's well within reach, is that anything better than that gives Chris Getz more like credence to keep his job. So that is definitely going to be a bitter pill to swallow, no matter how much I would celebrate Miguel Vargas doing well this year, or any of the White Sox. Guys, we want you to do well. The truth staring us in the face makes us depressed and sad and utterly realistic. But we want you to defy all our expectations. Even Hannah's very sunny 55 win prediction, which even she wants to pull back. And frankly, Hannah, the rules are you can switch it down to 35 if you want to in the next couple of days. The bell hasn't rung yet, so you can continue to maneuver, but you can also double down as well. Let's get to the pitchers, because all three of us have chosen a big surprise again, and not in any way to imply any sort of insult in your research, because I know you've got the reams of research, Melissa, but these picks are, we might as well all be, let's face it, we're all experts, right? But we might as well be picking out of a hat with this team, because who knows? Okay, I'm picking Shane Smith. Why not? He comes from another organization. That's a real good read. Davis Martin, that's a pretty hot pick for Hannah. And a very safe, if he sticks around, Melissa, Martin Perez, as her pitcher of the year. We do not see Perez getting much acclaim. He's even been passed over for what seemed like maybe a no-brainer opening day start. Not that you want to just get the fly-by-night guy and give him the opening day start, but the White Sox aren't exactly picking ringers these last couple of years, as much as Garrett Crochet proved he was worth it. First major league start on opening day is a bizarre move. So what makes you think, Melissa, that Martin is going to be the guy? Again, sort of everybody steps back, so he's the guy, but just his veteran savvy.
Yeah, I guess I did definitely go with the safe pick there. I just think with the young guys that there's still so much growth there that's going to happen, that they're going to be great for like 3 starts, and then they're going to be horrible for like 4 starts. And so I feel like over the entire season, Perez is probably going to be the most consistent. So that one was actually pretty cerebral in my thinking, that just with so many young guys, which we've seen in spring training, even like they'll have fantastic start, and go 3 innings and give up 1 hit. And then the next one, they get completely rocked. So I just think, which is fine by me, because I want them to do their growing and get all those things out. But just in terms of how over the season it'll play out, I think that Perez is just going to probably be the most consistent across the board.
Here's the problem with the White Sox. I totally get what you're saying, and the kids do need to play, for better or worse. This is going to be a horrible season. Play the youngsters. Enough with these 4A guys or guys trying to reclaim their their careers. If you've got this organization that's now whatever top 10, however they've cheated their way into the top 10 or top 5, then let's show it. I know not a lot of that talent is maybe at the upper echelon of the organization, but let's get some guys up. The problem is that now it's not just 3 starts they get around. Now it's like 3 starts and they're getting Tommy John surgery. So that's been a real rough turn for the White Sox, and we saw it in Drew Thorpe had 6 of 7 actually pretty brilliant starts. Had a 3.03 ERA, even though I think his FIP was real high, so it was a little bit of a mirage, but still, for a guy getting his feet wet in the majors, pretty darn good. And then obviously something happened with the elbow, a couple bad starts, never pitched again, and we're seeing that with more than one guy. I don't know offhand how injured Martin Perez has been in his career. For all I know, he's had 3-4 surgeries, but he might be the safe pick just because he'll know to pitch through the season without getting hurt. And of course, me and Hannah's picks are guys who are younger. And Shane Smith had 2 surgeries, I think, before he even turned pro. Davis Martin has had his surgery when he was on the cusp. Well, he actually had gotten his feet wet with the Sox and had a pretty decent rookie year. So maybe that's a safe pick just because he'll know in his 30s how to pitch through a season. Hannah, Davis Martin. That's a pretty solid pick. I feel dumb now that I didn't pick him. What other than his dashing good looks and his semi veteran savvy, having been through one season and change, is getting you to pick Davis Martin as most valuable Sox pitcher?
He looks great this spring training. Yeah. He's gone 2 scoreless outings, which scoreless. I mean 2 is not much, and there's spring training outings, so they're limited innings. But I also have listened about his kick change and the Brian Bannister and Ethan Katz magic on him, and I like what I've heard and seen.
Yeah, and now we've cursed him. His last start will be taking place before this even airs. So who knows? We can maybe go back and try to edit that, or hopefully we'll just say, man, 3 scoreless outings. He's the obvious MVP. Who else is there? That's sort of what got me changing. I was like on the Sean Burke train, and then I realized, okay, wait, I'm basing this on 4 good appearances, 3 good starts. I think 3 starts last year. I sort of am rooting for him. He's a hoss. He had a little bit of buzz, but his spring was pretty bad. And not that I'm such an idiot that I'm going to react to that, but yeah, I'm going to be an idiot and overreact to that. So I did switch my pick. And, contrary, Shane has, like you said about Davis Martin, Hannah, seems like he's got this pitch mix going for him. He's got sort of something to prove. He seems to have a little bit of hoss in him. He seems like a guy, even though he's as young as all the rest, that sort of has maybe a little bit more veteran hand or sensibility that I just think somehow he's going to be more consistent through the year. Again, probably just cursed him, but he's made the rotation. He's a guy who came in thinking, I think people were betting maybe more bullpen going in. Maybe that was before 8,000 arms exploded on the White Sox roster. But, the fact that he's pretty much bowled his way into the rotation. All right, that's a hot enough pick. I guess I must have won that round too. See, when you talk the most, I don't know, you win all the rounds. Let's talk about rookies. I just stuck with Shane Smith because it's like, all right, well, if he's going to be the pitcher MVP, coin flip there, but okay. Hannah, sort of going off the board, predicting Hagen Smith will get called up and make enough of an impact. That probably has a little bit to do with maybe how bad some of the other rookies will be. Again, the whole everyone else takes a step back. Melissa, Kyle Teal, a guy who could come up maybe, I don't know, as early as May. He might not get too much run in the minors. If the team is bad enough on the south side and he does well enough, Colson Montgomery, you could say that's another guy, starts out hot enough and the team stinks, which we sort of know it will, those guys are going to be like free to call up. And then you send Jacob Amaya away for the 8,000th time, or Matt, I don't even know how to pronounce his name. This tells you how many podcasts I've done in this off season. I haven't even got my pronunciation guide down yet, but I don't know. One of the catchers is going to get, kicked to the curb. So best rookie, back to you, Melissa. Kyle Teal. You got to love this guy. I mean, right? That's as simple as he's exciting.
Yes. Well, and really quick, I looked up Martin Perez, and he's actually been pretty healthy. He's had like one stint within the last couple of years, like 15-day on the IL. So Yay.
All right, I'm changing my pick. Okay, yeah. All right, tell me about Kyle Teal now.
Although we probably just jinxed him. And he's going to be the next guy tomorrow. There's going to be an announcement. He's the next one to drop. But anyway, so I hope not, Martine. I really hope not. Because he seems like a fun guy too. Okay, so yeah, Kyle Teal. He was super vocal and stuff at Sox Fest. I mean, he was on the panels, and he was in the meet and greets and stuff, and he just seems super mature for his age. Like when I'm like, gosh, like, I don't know, for like catchers, I always feel like in my head, Carlton Fisk, of course, he's like grizzled old veteran guys that kind of have it down, and then he just being so young, you're like, gosh, can this kid really, lead a starting rotation? But then, we have a very young starting rotation. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense, but he just seems to me to have the tools that he's just ready to come up, both, on the catching side and on the, offensive side. So I think he'll basically go down to Charlotte and just get some reps in, and let the chips fall in Chicago, because, Dice and Navarez or whatever they end up going with, and Corey Lee, I feel like that's going to get old really fast. And I think that Teal's going to put it together down there pretty quickly in Charlotte. And yeah, I hope so anyway, because I like catchers. They're my faves. So.
Yeah, they are. Thais, okay, I trust you. All right, okay, I trust you there. And here's the thing too. I mean, I misspoke. I mean, it doesn't have to be that the two catchers are doing poorly and they're not going to kick Corey Lee to the curb. One of the things about Kyle Teal is he's shown the ability defensively and with that bat. He may see some corner outfield. He could see some first base. He's a guy who might just bull his, or DH. He might just bull. We don't have a DH, so DH is wide open, but he should probably break a camp as a DH. So, I mean, his bat could get him in a way that maybe even Edgar Carroll can't, or doesn't have quite as much flex, although their stats seem pretty similar. Yes, that's exciting. So you see him maybe just be able to hit his way, not necessarily even catch his way to the South Side. So a great pick there. I mean, again, I'm in this to win it, so I'm not gonna pick any of these guys who aren't breaking camp with the team. I'm just trying to just maximize, because this obviously the prize at the end of the year is so generous that I want to win again. I'm off for 1 year now, finishing 4th or 5th last year. That's not going to get it done. So I can't take a gamble like Hannah Filippo, where it's like, okay, Hagen Smith. Obviously, you're thinking he's coming up, say, maybe second half of the season and just sort of kills it, makes an impact. And even if maybe, the WAR or the innings, he's not going to get too many major league innings, but it's going to be enough to say, holy cow, we've got like 2026's ace.
I think he comes up within the first half, because I think Venable will be willing. Venable knows it's a throwaway year. He's going to want to see as many young guys as he possibly can. And I think, it's a pretty heavy rotation outside of Perez. So bringing up a lefty makes sense. He's number 2 overall. I think Noah Schultz is number 1. So he's number 2 overall in lefty prospects. And I just like what he's done this spring training as well. It's kind of a neck and neck race with him and Noah Schultz. So honestly, it could be a coin toss, but just a gut instinct. Looking at stats and seeing him as Hagen first.
Yeah, and Hagen haven't pitched competitively or so competitively in college. Was coming right out of high school. I mean, I think I could be, again, I'm sorry, I haven't done any research. Why am I hosting a podcast? Sorry. But I mean, they're not that far apart in age, or maybe they are.
No, they're not.
Okay.
They're close.
But the way they've gotten there, Schultz has been sort of, I say it, and it makes it seem like I'm some sort of no Schultz hater. No, I want the guy to be awesome. But I mean, he has been babied. He hasn't pitched 5 innings. He has been babied. This year, that's going to change. White Sox have proven in Hannah's defense, or advocating her stance with Hagen, that they are not afraid at all, and probably prefer to have their pitchers bypass Charlotte entirely and pull them up right from Double-A. Whether that proves to be a great strategy or not, they're not afraid to do that. And so him making a jump, I'm presuming again, both he and it does seem like he and Noah are going to be starting in Birmingham. And if they're there, he wouldn't necessarily have to make that stop at Charlotte to prove his way onto the roster. So who knows? Yeah, maybe there will be a more, if they're bad enough, they might say, hey, guys, just take it easy, stay out of the spotlight. The White Sox don't seem real eager to get a lot of these young guys up. They make an occasional aggressive move, but by and large, I don't know if Gretz is just afraid to be proven that, I don't know, his prospects aren't all that prospecty. I don't know what it is, but yeah, Hagen Smith seems to be a guy more likely even than Noah Schultz to come up. Or maybe they're like best buds now, right? So maybe they're just going to get the same bus ticket up to Chicago and they're going to like start back to back or something. I don't know. That would be pretty exciting given the team at the time were probably like 20 and 100. That would be sort of awesome. I mean, it would create some interest and they'd sell maybe more than 10,000 tickets to a game or two. So that's pretty awesome. Hey, White Sox, we love you. We do love you. We're just trying to be real here. We've talked a lot about the White Sox. I guess it's a good time to take a break. We'll maybe look a little more broadly at baseball, across, I don't know, the other 5 divisions or whatever. Pick like our sleeper picks, or, are we just going to talk about the Dodgers for 20, 30 minutes? I don't know what we're going to do. But if you stick with us for a minute or two, listen to our Fans First Sports Network promotional messages. Please listen to them closely. Click, buy. It's probably good stuff. Slap chop. Hopefully it won't be betting. Who wants betting ads? Oh, for God's sake, enough with the betting ads. We don't want betting ads. I hope you don't get any betting ads. If you're lucky, after all, this is a White Sox podcast. There might not be any ads. You may just hear us in 1 or 2 seconds. But anyhow, hang with us whether it breaks 1 minute, 2 minutes, or just 1 second. I'll be back with Hannah Filippo, Melissa Sage-Bollenbach, and anybody else who decides to crash the podcast here in the second half as we talk about across baseball in our 2025 predictions. It's the podcast you've been waiting all year to listen to. We'll try and make it worth your penny here in the second half. Hang with us for a minute or two. Hey, White Sox fans. Hey, that break was quick, wasn't it? Wow, it's almost like you can't sell advertising for a White Sox podcast. Or maybe you did have to sit through 2 or 3 minutes of ads. Sorry, we're back now. I'm here with our newcomer, hitting the ground running writer, Hannah Filippo, and returning champ, right hand woman, great studio setup with Jim Tomei looming threateningly maybe, but also just joyfully there in her studio. If you happen to be watching on the Sox Populi YouTube channel, tune in, check out Melissa's great setup. It went from midnight to daybreak in just like a second. The technical staff she has in that studio is brilliant. Give that guy a raise. Okay, I'm Brett Ballantini. We're back here for the second half. We're going to talk about, I don't know, whatever's left to talk about. We were very White Sox heavy in the first half. We're going to talk about across baseball, I guess. I want to start with, of course, the AL Central, but as I say that, we're not going to start with the AL Central because I just want to know, is there any point, and I know at least Hannah has an opinion on this, is there any point to playing the season? Should we just give the Dodgers the crown? I could take that as a yes, but I know Hannah has picked a different World Series winner.
I'm among the few. I foolishly believe in the Phillies again, time and time.
You're taking the field, which isn't a bad strategy, taking the field against the Dodgers.
I like their pitching depth a bit more. I do. I know Roki Sasaki is a front runner for MVP Rookie of the Year for the NL, but I like the pitching more for the Phillies. I think they're more experienced, and I like the veteran hitters a lot more. Depends what happens at the deadline.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, if there's a weakness, it's that they already have 6,000 pitchers on the IL, and it's going. I mean, there's only going to be more because guys do get hurt and banged up. So, yeah, they're going to have to acquire they're going to have to call the White Sox. They're going to have to call the White Sox and say, hey, who you got? And if there is actually somebody they got, well, of course, the White Sox will happily ship them in a 3 or 4 or 5 team deal, and the White Sox will get like some hot dog wrappers and some spare scorecards in return. Okay, well, Melissa, we don't have anything exciting to add to this, given that we have the exact same World Series matchup and winner. What are we thinking? I know now you want to change your picks. Feel free to, because now that you're tagged with me, but yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of logic to taking the Dodgers against the field, given this team it really does seem unstoppable. They just keep getting better.
Yeah, I'm such a Shohei Ohtani fangirl. I just think it's like him going to the Dodgers has just like ignited him to this whole other level. And when you like combine him with the like in with why do I say Anaheim? I'm so old. It's still the Anaheim Angels. In Los Angeles, I mean, it was him and Mike Trout, but that was it, and we've been White Sox fans long enough to know that, you can have Frank Thomas in your lineup, but you don't have anybody else around him. It doesn't really matter. So, I mean, he just went to the Dodgers and it's just like everything just fit perfectly. And they're a juggernaut and I will be shocked if I think injuries can impact any team. And so if they suffer some things that takes them down, but I mean, the way they're set up right now, they just look phenomenal. And I just don't see how anybody's going to be able to crack through that. So
Melissa, you do not have to consult a style book on the Angels. They've done this to themselves. They're not the Los Angeles Angels. They play in Anaheim. That's why we just call them the Angels, because I don't know what this con they're trying to do is. We're not calling them the Milwaukee White Sox. I'd like to call them like the Des Moines Cubs, but I mean, we're not playing some weird game like this. So yeah, Angels is easy. Anaheim is a completely reasonable mistake because they play in Anaheim. Anyhow, why would we be talking about the Angels in the 2025 season prediction preview? Because no one has any respect for the Angels. They're not quite the joke that, I don't know, our team is, but boy, they're darn close. And who knows, they may pass this year. Let's hone in on the AL Central because we got a weird developing situation here. We have 4 Guardians division win picks. We have 4 Tigers division win picks. Then we have a crazy outlier of the Royals. No Twins, even though I believe I don't know, Pacoda or something, count that for what it counts, but are picking the Twins to win. I'm not really sure how you can see the Twins overcoming those other 3 teams, but I mean, they're in the mix, even though no one's picked them yet. So really there's this fight here. What it seems to be Guardians, maybe a safer pick because they're just sort of always hanging around, just so gosh darn annoying. Now I can't even get angry at them for their stupid nickname. So I almost have to reluctantly respect them. And the Tigers, sort of the upstarts, came on with that crazy finish and actually did end up taking the division. I can't even remember, but they had 3. How crappy was the American League? 3 AL Central teams make the playoffs, and they stand at adequate. I mean, I know everybody's got Red Sox fever or whatever, but stand an adequate chance of maybe doing the same thing. You figure one of those teams might fall off, but Guardians, Tigers, it does seem to be between the two. I know I picked Tigers. I think Hannah, you picked Tigers. Melissa, who you picked Guardians? Oh, you
nope. I picked Royals.
Oh, for God's sake! All right, defend your. No, I mean that's not crazy. Maybe it's my deep-seated hatred for the Royals or something, or having been a former Kansas Citian or something. But I mean, that's not a crazy pick either. I mean, they could be a team. Any of these teams could be a high 90s win team. It's going to be weird to see if there's a team could break out of the AL Central because they're all so good, except one. But what's some logic behind making the Kansas City pick? Aside from Bobby Witt Jr.
I was going to say, so I'm going to contradict myself because I was just like, well, you can't have Frank Thomas in the lineup by himself. Or, I mean, they do have Bobby Witt Jr. Now, he also is not surrounded by this solid core of, some real, bats in the Royals lineup or whatever. But I don't know. I just like what I saw from them last year. I mean, I think they kind of had that just, I don't know, the battle mentality where it seemed like they were going in and when they were playing games, they were in them, they weren't getting huge blowouts. And I thought, well, maybe it's time for them. They've been in the basement long enough and it's time for them to kind of break out. And with Bobby Witt Jr., I don't know, I love him too. So I just want him to do well.
I know there's not a lot of pitching, period, because, again, arms are just exploding, left and right, and shoulders and elbows and wrists and fingers. But, I mean, it's not very insightful to say a team that can really stitch together its pitching in this division and anywhere, of course, is going to run away with it. But I'm not sure that I see, does Detroit have the inside track there? I mean, I'm not sure I see a standout staff even among the four, obviously not the White Sox, even among the four, to say, okay, I sort of like knowing, maybe the Guardians in the past, you could say, you know what, they've got the arms and they always manage to just like call up, Joe Schmo and he throws a shutout. They have this like great pipeline. I'm not sure if that's like thinned out now. Maybe Guardians is the safer pitching pick. Is there a team in the AL Central, Hannah, that stands out to you as having the arms? I mean, I guess your default would be Tigers. You're picking them to win it, and I would probably go with that. But it's not a measured advantage, even with a defending Cy Young winner coming back.
You're right. There's no rotation that full. I actually do. I like the Royals' rotation a lot, actually.
Okay.
Except for the fact that they traded Cole Reagans away, which is a hit to their rotation. But they still got Seth Lugo in their back pocket, and he was a Cy Young contender. But I like Detroit. I like Scooble. I like Flaherty signing with them.
Yeah.
And Jackson Jobe can pitch like he's expected to. That's a pretty good starting three.
Yeah, that's the one with the potential maybe to create that distance from the division. And as much as I want to see it, just by implication, I see when you do the quick math of how much the White Sox are supposed to lose the division by in our predictions, I see some of us picking have this vibe of it being not even a 90-win division winner, which is not implausible given that the teams just might beat the stuffing out of each other, go close enough to 500 against everybody. You're going to end up close to 500 division winner. Well, of course, they're going to get real fat off of one team in the division, but anyhow. But yeah, it doesn't seem implausible that this year, unlike the fight they had really tooth and nail down to the very end last year, that maybe one team does create the distance. And KC, maybe the Guardians are the third most likely, despite people picking, because the Royals seem to have a little bit of that, on the rise and have the arms, and then Detroit sort of like as the standing champ with the one hoss in the division. You've got Tariq Skubal, and it's like, okay, you've got that guy as with the must-win game. I'm not sure how many other pitchers in the division, if any, you could say that about, especially because the White Sox, traded their one guy you could have said that about. So, yeah, that's going to be a close one. Really no divisions in our picks other than the NL West, given. We've had 3 picks in a number of divisions. AL East is another one. AL West is another one. NL Central, a lot of Brewers picks. A lot of different picks in the NL East. Any other thing, a storyline, I suppose, not necessarily wrapping it up here, but is there a storyline, a player? We all know fangirl for Shohei there. Melissa, do we know yet how much he's going to be pitching?
Yeah, they haven't talked about it too much other than, he didn't pitch over in Japan, but yeah, I don't know how much he's going to be pitching. To me, I wouldn't pitch him really at all, to be honest with you. I think he's too valuable of an offensive player. But I know, how do you shut a guy like that down when he can do so brilliantly what he does. But on the other hand, it's like, man, his arm has shown, it's pretty good over the last couple of years with, the surgeries and stuff. And I don't know. I just be like, sit him down and be like, Shohei, man, like you are a superstar, and we appreciate the fact that you want to do it all. But
he carries the team, and he's carrying the Dodgers. He's not carrying the White Sox. That's like you can fall down and be carrying the White Sox. He's carrying the Dodgers. Did he have that run last year where he added like 2 WAR to his total, like in 5 games or something, like things you don't even think I'm I'm no math guy. Don't think it's mathematically possible.
Yeah. And because he does, he steals bases. But then he hurt himself when he was running to steal bases. I'm like, don't let him steal bases either.
That's a fine line. Cause it's like, you want him to be the superstar he can be, but at the same time, it's like, dude, you're the runaway MVP. You win games on your own. You playing against the White Sox would probably beat the White Sox in a fair amount of games, and that's just you run around the outfield yourself. That's a fine line. And then at the same time, you're paying him $8 billion. It doesn't matter how much he's deferred. You're paying him $8 billion. So it's like, okay, well, it's not like
it's a huge investment on, the part of the Dodgers, even if it is deferred for the next 30 years or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't let him pitch, and I wouldn't let him.
Well, let's talk more about Shohei. What was the crazy stat where he got paid like $2 million, but he made like $100 million last year, just like promotion, endorsements and stuff, some kind of ridiculous amount, which of course I'm guessing he sort of knew that's how it was going to happen.
Yeah, right. Like, Dodgers, I don't need your money. I'm going to make so much money on all my endorsements and stuff. Yeah. He deserves it. He's the Babe Ruth of our generation. I mean, absolutely. Get all you can, Shohei.
Melissa, Hannah, his dog is adorable, but it's depressing to know that his dog is going to make more this year in salary than I'll make in my lifetime. I'm sorry. It's just depressing. No offense to you, Shohei. More puppy dog. You're adorable, and you're doing a lot more on the field than I am, because like throwing out a first pitch or grabbing a first bat or whatever that was last year. I'm sure he's going to do a lot more this year, but I'm sorry. It's still depressing. Anyhow, okay, that's my rant about journalist pay. Hannah, storylines besides, like the countdown for the White Sox to, cross 100 losses in August or whatever it's going to be, storylines that are appealing to you, especially given that you sort of have some interest in it. Me and Melissa are silly. We're like, we don't have any other teams. Why have we not figured this out, Melissa? Pick some other teams and then we don't have to suffer so badly. Hannah, other storylines or things you're sort of intrigued about with this coming season?
Yeah, other than my shameless Phillies momentum that I have every year and they disappoint me, I like the Red Sox. I really do, and it's not just because I pay attention to them. I like Bregman. It's a smooth move. He loves the Green Monster. He loves hitting at Fenway, so that's a perfect match for him. And I like the ceiling of their rotation. I don't know if it will reach its max potential, with Walker Buehler being kind of unquestioned and Pablo Sandoval being very questionable too. But with Crochet leading the front, and as we've seen with training and all of last year, he's a phenomenal ace. So if Buehler, Sandoval, and the rest of the pieces come together, the lineup is there. It's just a matter of the pitching, and they have plenty of depth there too.
Okay, Hannah has picked Garrett Crochet as AL Cy Young. Me and Melissa, I swear to God, this isn't some sort of planned teaming up, but we're going with the so-called safe pick, as if any pitcher you could ever pick is a safe pick, Tariq Skubal. Okay. Garrett Crochet, I know Melissa, though, not picking him for Cy Young, is feeling great pain about him being in Boston. And so I am going to put forth an unpopular feeling. I do not think Garrett Crochet is going to have all that great a year. And I can't even tell you exactly why. I think part of it would be endurance, but I don't think it's going to torpedo the Red Sox. They are sort of a hot pick. I'm sort of sleeping on them, but I mean, they just keep adding legit players, and in a league unlike the NL where it's sort of wide open, especially with the Yankees taking a couple hits. I mean, it's wide open for any team that gets the momentum of a couple guys, and I don't know, adding Garrett Crochet and the hitting that they've added. Oh yeah, and having three guys they wouldn't trade to the White Sox, or at least a couple of them still there, ready to come up and help as needed. That's a pretty promising future there for the Red Sox. Yeah, every time I see just how great, and this is not some kind of sour grapes thing. I want them to do great, but it just seems like it's too. Oh, I'm going to stop talking now, because now this tape is going to be used against me in the future. And I know Sage is sitting down there just waiting to make a clip for TikTok or something to make me look like an idiot more than I normally do. But yeah, I don't know that's necessarily a given that he's going to just run through the league. Although nothing in spring has shown that. Nothing even last year, although he was sort of slowed down and sort of shut down toward the end of the year because he'd never pitched innings in the major leagues at all. I guess I should say I'm very intrigued to see what he has to bring, because he could be like the Chris Sale pushing them to the World Series. And that's, I believe, what at least one of us, Hannah Filippo, has decided to predict, because she's seen some real Red Sox success this year. So that's not a weird pick, and you don't have to be like, hey, I sort of like the Red Sox to say, that's a pretty reasonable pick. And I think you could argue they may be the most intriguing team to take a look at, certainly in the American League this year, because they made some considerable changes, and not like flip moves. These are like serious moves on both sides of the ball. They could easily be the best team in the American League. I don't know if that's a foregone conclusion, but I mean, they have that potential to maybe run away with it in the way the Yankees have threatened to do in years past. Melissa, other non-Shohei or Garrett Crochet storylines that you're going to be paying attention to this year, or teams you're thinking about making your second or third or fourth or fifth?
No, I just echo what you guys said about Boston. I think what they've done in the offseason is really interesting. And if I was a Boston fan, I'd be super excited about it, because it shows that they're trying to put all the pieces together. I think it's always encouraging when you're a fan and you can see that your front office is actively like, okay, we need this kind of piece, we need this kind of piece, and putting the puzzle together. I don't really know what that feels like, but I can imagine as a fan, it's a pretty exciting time to look forward to opening day and everything. But yeah, nobody. I think the Orioles are going to be good again, but I feel bad for them, because I do feel like they have a little bit of that White Sox problem where it's like, oh yeah, we got all these young guys, yet they won't go out and spend what they need to spend to really make them a juggernaut. So that I think that's probably pretty dang frustrating for Orioles fans. So I can empathize with them there. But I think they're still going to be good, but they're not going to be good enough, which, why do this if you're not going to be good enough? Like, just keep people hanging, dangling on. I don't know.
Okay, let's pull this back before we decide to crash it. I've had this streak of hour-plus long podcasts. I've just got to quit because, what's the point? This is a White Sox podcast. What right would we have to speak, even if we're not talking about the White Sox at all, to talk for more than an hour about baseball, especially in a very podcast-heavy week? We've got the return of Soxy Chicks with Crystal O'Keefe hosting. We've got, of course, Visiting Dugout previewing all series. Ladies' Night is just around the corner somewhere. I don't know, somebody here could give us an update there. Pre-game, post-game podcast. Really, to be honest, let me be honest with you, dear listener, dear viewer. Frankly, too many podcasts. It's too many podcasts this week. I'm sorry. I apologize in advance. We won't do this to you again any other week this season. I guess I can promise that. But yes, it's a podcast heavy week. We got a lot more going on from here. Do we have an update on Ladies' Night? Is that going to be premiering in April, or do we get anything sooner than that?
No, we're recording this week. So, because, we need more podcasts.
Throw it on the pile. Okay. All right. Hey, listen, we're not holding the ladies down here. Do too.
Yeah.
All right.
It's going to be yours truly. It's going to be Hannah and I.
Okay.
And so each week it'll be me as the host and another one of our Sox ladies will be my co-host. And then we're going to hopefully have some guests. We already have some guests lined up to come in and talk to us too. So yeah, it should be a really fun summer for the ladies.
Let me apologize, listeners. We should have led with that, because you could have saved yourself a lot of time by deciding, you know what, I'm going to listen to Ladies' Night, so I only have to listen to Hannah and Melissa and not the clown pretending he's hosting the podcast. Apologies. Next time, I'll make sure we go through our calendar of events at the top of the podcast, so you can choose just to shut this off. You're gonna miss all the funny bits, all the idiot predictions, and if you're watching, all the hand gestures, and even perhaps. Because I ran into, the hippie ran into some shears that were far, far too violent, the new punk haircut. But, I wouldn't exactly tune into a podcast for any of that. So, yeah, Ladies' Night. Sorry, it's too late now. If you're listening now, too late. I apologize. Okay, let's bring this back to the White Sox before we close up. See, look, I'm milking this to get it past an hour. I don't know why. It's not like we get paid more for going past an hour. Okay, but here is a bonus question that's taking it off the board, but we're going to pull it back to the White Sox. The White Sox have, in theory, 4 games in March. Now, I'm not sure how the White Sox expect to play 4 games in March, and they are still located in the Midwest with no dome. But okay, 4 games in March. So I need a prediction. All 3 of us will predict. Will the White Sox have a winning March. Now let's remember they're playing the undetermined Riverside, North Hollywood Angels for 3 of those games. I like those chances. But then one game against the Minnesota Twins, the boisterous Minnesota Twins, who did just enough to stay somewhat in the mix and frustrate their fans. 4 games. Are they going to have a winning record in March? It must be their first winning month in, I don't know, decades. But Hannah, do you think the White Sox will have a winning March, 500 March, or let's face it, take the easy money, losing March?
I'll take the 500.
Okay. 2-2. That's an awesome pace. Holy cow. Okay, Melissa, let's test how sunny you are.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to be sunny. Well, first of all, I think they're going to be lucky. Like you said, it's supposed to rain like Thursday, Friday, or Thursday, Saturday, Sunday or something. So we'll be lucky to get 4 games in, but I think we're lucky if we win 1.
Okay. I'll take if they had to play all 4, would I actually pick them to go 1-3? I don't know if they're going to lose this. And the Angels are bad. So if they do play all 4, I'll go with Hannah and say 500. Wow. But yeah, probably one of those games will get banged. And I think they're going to go like 1-2 or something, right? I mean, if they even play any, opening in March in Chicago. So rain, not snow. I mean,
no, not snow. It's going to be like 50 on opening day, but they're predicting rain, I think, right, like in the afternoon. So
every opener I ever went to was chilly, often rainy. The 2006 one was like a 3-hour delay, right? And rainy, cold. There's just not many. It's March or early April in Chicago. I guess we shouldn't expect anything more. I'm old enough. Oh, Melissa, you might be old enough to remember 1982 when like the first 2 weeks of the season were snowed out. The Sox started, I think, 10-0 that year, but they didn't play their first game till like April 10 or something. Just snow everywhere.
Yeah, I remember one opening day at Old Comiskey. It was probably like 85 or 86. I mean, it was freezing. There was snowflakes, like the wind was just whipping, and we're like all huddled together. And of course, I mean, I was young, I didn't care, but now like I'm like, if it's not like 70 and sunny, I'm not going. I feel so bad for my kid because he's like, I want to go to an opening day. And I'm like, no, if it's not sunny and 70, I'm not going.
Football weather is football weather. And if you're enough of a lunatic to be a football fan, then you're sort of like, what you're getting into, especially, Midwest, right? Baseball. Yeah. I mean, worlds on the other side of it, World Series. Oh yeah, come on. There were like, what do they call it? I don't know, slurry, whatever it is when it's like snow and rain. I mean, that was before game, if not both games, definitely game 2. So, that's different, because you're about to see like a World Series title, and given the fact that, sorry, Hannah, I know you're younger, but none of us may live to see another one. I mean, you got to just take it. I mean, if you got to show up naked and sit in the snow, you're going to do that to see your team maybe win a title. Boy, to think, Melissa, at the time, we thought, that, they might go. Yeah, they might have a run.
Yeah.
They might have a run. Can you believe that? I was like, I was older than you, Melissa. I was old enough to know better, and I still was like, oh, yeah, well, come on. Cliff Poline's back next year, man.
They were good in 2006. And if we had the playoff structure we have now.
I know. We should have made the playoffs 8,000 more times. Yeah, I know. Well, we didn't. And now we're stuck in this. Oh, man, upbeat ending. Definitely tune into Ladies Night. I bet you they're going to be a lot sunnier about the season than having this idiot keep barking terrible, terrible things about being naked in the snow watching a World Series game. What is he even talking about? Okay, I'm going to stop short of 1 hour on this podcast. Thanks for sticking with us long enough. Thank you for joining us, and congratulations on the podcast debut there, Hannah Filippo. Thank you for being with us. I hope to hear a lot more, read a lot more. Everybody tune in on her writing. It's great stuff. Podcast apparently just right around the corner, like probably back to back right after this. There's more Hannah Filippo, along with Melissa Sage-Bollenbach, hostess of Ladies Night. And I don't know, she pops up everywhere. She'll be here for probably like Pre-game podcast, post-game podcast. It's like, listen, you don't have to do this much. No, Brett, she's here first. I'm like, oh, well, you mean at some point I'm going to just say, Melissa, you host. I'll sit and smile politely. Yeah, right. Okay. Anyhow, let's wrap this thing up because we got 30 seconds before the witching hour and the lights go off in the Sage-Bollenbach studio. So thank you, Hannah, Melissa, everyone out there listening, watching. Without you out there, there's no purpose for us being here. Okay, this is the first of 20,000 podcasts this week, so tune in on all of them. You don't want to miss an important morsel in any one of them. Until like 5 minutes from now, take care, everybody.